Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the past 10 songs from my top 100. Now, as always, if you're confused about the format of this video, just take a look at my first reasonings video. Anyways, let's get right into it. So at number 20, we have The Cry of the Poor by John Foley. And this track just has, beautiful lyricism, greatly derived from the Psalms themselves. I guess it's just so many years of having listened to it just kind of brings back all of those collective memories. But I think it really is that whole kind of personal connection to it that brings it so high on the list. Following it is Beautiful by Mr. Fiji Ouija featuring Laura Brem. Honestly, I think the title describes the song very well. It really is a beautiful track. Mr. Fiji Ouija, he's been on this list countless times. I think he's pretty much established himself as a master of creating that atmosphere and the use of vocal chops, because it just engulfs me into the entire world that it's creating. And it's so calming and relaxing, but also deeply emotional. So that's number 19. Following it is number 18, Mr. Fiji Ouija again, back to back. An artist is good when they have two back-to-back songs in my top 20 of all time. But along with Mr. Fiji Ouija, we have Solero, not quite sure how the name is pronounced, and their track name is Nebula. Fantastic work here too. The chords and the vocal chops, which like I just mentioned, are Fiji's specialty, but they're just so, deeply emotional, and the production is something that's quite different. Of course it's been used in other tracks, but it's not necessarily super common, and I think it lends itself nicely to really letting that melody and those chops shine, which really is the main reason why it is up here, is just because of how beautiful everything is when it all comes together. Following it is number 17, Everything by Lifehouse. And this is just phenomenal, really. The lyrics are quite frankly perfect, and the way the song begins is it really envelops you in this really powerful atmosphere, but it always kind of gives you that hint. It kind of teases you that something bigger is coming, but it really takes its time. It makes you, it allows you to enjoy kind of the beautiful vocals here and all the different elements that come together. But then when you get that impact, that large bit at the end, it really does deliver. The climax just, it really seals the whole deal. Honestly, the climax itself is fantastic, but the atmosphere is what makes it shine, because the climax would really be nothing without that beautiful elongated intro that has so many of these, beautiful verses and all the sweet melodies. As a whole package, everything lends itself so nicely into the track that it really feels like each part belongs there. Following it is Jesus Remember Me by Taizé. That's number 16. I guess it really is like the memories that I have attached with it that bring it so high on the list, because this is a song that I've known for quite a long while, and even the melody, if I'm being completely honest, the melody itself isn't even too impressive, but it's just I guess it's just kind of where it draws its roots, because for those of you who are familiar with it, it draws its roots from scripture, from the crucifixion, and I think that it does a good job of really bringing that to a more contemporary kind of atmosphere. Following it is Hillsong, Awesome God. First of all, I know that Hillsong isn't the original artist of the lyrics, but I decided to credit them as the artist here because that's the version that I used and also my favorite version. But like I mentioned with Jesus Remember Me, it is just that line that's repeating itself, although this one, to be fair, has a bit more, I guess the line has a bit more lyricism put into it, but really the main things that put it so high on the list is, first of all, you know, the melody kind of captivates me. It does a great job of that. And then also, just like I mentioned with the last track, the memories attached with it too. There's another one that I've known for a few couple of years. But if you take a look at the track, I featured my favorite part of it in the video, where it's just the drums and the everyone singing. Like, the amount of energy and power there is really just remarkable. And it's that kind of energy and emotion that I feel whenever I'm listening to the track, which really, like I mentioned, really is a special thing, and is what puts it all the way up at number 15 on the list. Following it is Spring Snow by Cloud9. This is number 14. This is just such a beautiful track. You know what, it employs the use of vocal chops as well. And really the main thing that brings it so high up on the list is the chord, like just the melody and the chord progression, because it's so deeply emotional. And really the entire track is just built around it, and the way it's built doesn't overshadow that beautiful melody, but instead it lets it shine, and it really brings it into the limelight. So everything just works so well together there, and if you have a really solid foundation, that's what you get. You end up with this incredible emotional track. Following it is Closer to the Truth by Cryoshell. I just love this one. So much energy and so impactful. There's a great melody there, and while it's a slow track, I think that just gives more of the power in there. But like I mentioned with Cryoshell's other track, this is a nostalgic track, but I also think it's very solid in its own right, with delivering that energy and that impact. Right after is number 12, Zach Waters, A Lot Like You. This is another one to like everything that I mentioned earlier. This has a similar format, but just in like an electronic style, where it has a really chill first bit, and then it goes into that euphoric, impactful second drop. But I think one of the, like, especially on first listen, one of the things that completely like caught me off guard and blew me away was, you know, all the pads and all the synths were coming up and they were rising, and then suddenly it was brought all into just little sine waves. They brought this huge, you know, rising kind of tension, and then they just, you know, I had never heard anything like that in another track, and it just, you know, it completely captivated me, and it just made it transition so much more nicely into that second drop, just kept the tension going, and it really just makes for a super emotional but also super impactful track. Following it, last song in the video, number 11, is Goodbye to a World by Porter Robinson. Amazing melody, but this is another one where it really is about the progression and about how the track kind of evolves. Because even though this is the outro to the track, the intro to this outro really takes its time. It does a great job of world building, of creating that atmosphere. And then all of a sudden you're plunged into these super saws and these synths with the melody, and it just brings you right back in. And you know, it takes you right all the way until the drop, which comes with full energy and delivers perfectly. And the execution is just flawless. And it really just brings the whole thing full circle, and it does a perfect job of closing off the album. And it really just, like many of these other ones, it's just emotional and impactful. Those are the two things. If you nail those two, you're bound to get high up on the list, and this one does it perfectly. So I hope you enjoyed this Reasonings video. Hope it gave you a little more insight into my thoughts on the tracks, and I will see you all for the last Reasonings video next time.